The Toyota HiLux has been Australia's best-selling vehicle for the last 6 years, but its driving manners haven't always reflected that status. Now Toyota's trying to address that with the new HiLux Rogue. Is it the best driving HiLux ever? Let's find out. The Rogue's been around for a few years, but until now it's really been a dual cab dress-up special with nothing to distinguish it mechanically. The series of chassis upgrades developed by Toyota Australia's 4x4 experts introduced with this model changed that. Make no mistake, these are the biggest dynamic changes made to this generation HiLux since its introduction. What hasn't changed is the price, which commendably remains the same as the old Rogue, pitching it up against the likes of the excellent new Ford Ranger Wildtrak and the popular Isuzu D-Max X-Terrain. Until the Hypo GR Sport turns up, the Rogue is the flagship of the HiLux range, and in that role it gets exclusive gear like this resin sports bar and powered roll top. It also looks more powerful sitting on its new wider track as well. What hasn't changed through all this is the drivetrain, led by this 2.8 litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine. It's not a performance leader in the class, but fuel consumption is consistently good. A 6-speed auto is the only transmission choice, and it drives via a part-time 4x4 system that includes low-range gearing for serious off-road work, as well as a locking rear diff and an excellent off-road traction control system. No problem figuring out where the pennies were spent for this upgrade, as the cabin is very familiar. And now with the arrival of the Ford Ranger Ute, old-fashioned and outdated. You should be able to make yourself comfy behind the steering wheel. It adjusts for reach and rake, and the seat has 8-way power adjustment. The seats are big, supportive and comfy. Storage is adequate enough and includes a double glove box, but there's nothing outstanding here. Nor is the HiLux Rogue anything special when it comes to infotainment tech. The 8-inch touchscreen is familiar, as is the clunky Toyota operating system. Embedded sat-nav is standard, as is a JBL 9-speaker audio. However, your Toyota dealer might offer you a $750 discount to cop a 6-speaker audio system. It's all part of the global microchip shortage. The Toyota OS is clunky enough to encourage you to switch over to Apple CarPlay or Android Auto as soon as you can. Both of them are available via cable connection. There's no wireless smartphone operation or charging, and just one USB plug. The instrument panel comprises 2 analog dials separated by a digital readout that provides information on things like fuel consumption and driver and safety assist systems. Speaking of safety, you get a new 360-degree camera and front and rear parking sensors to help manoeuvre in tight spaces. The sensors can be switched off when going off-road. Toyota's upgraded the Rogue's driver assist features for 2022, adding blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert to a lineup that already includes autonomous emergency braking, adaptive cruise control and an annoyingly intrusive but thankfully switchable lane departure system. Move to the rear seat and you'll find the Rogue is pretty typical dual cab ute fare. Thanks to the underpinning ladder frame, the seating position is quite upright, and legroom for adults is a bit tight. The essential comfort options are all here: air vents, door bins, seat back pockets, a fold down armrest with cup holders, and even some hooks on the seat backs, but no USB connectors. You can flip the rear seat up for extra storage, and there's also these storage bins under the floor, but note, they're not insulated, so if you're going to put anything in here that's potentially going to make noise or is breakable, wrap them up first. So let's check out the tray. The payloads come down a little with the new Rogue, but this is not a real working man's ute, not with that carpet and the amount of space the roll top box swallows up. Poor, this tailgate is heavy too. So let's check out what Toyota's done to the Rogue chassis. The tracks are wider, the ground clearance has been increased, rear shock absorbers move outboard, and a rear stabiliser bar is fitted to a HiLux for the first time. The objective has been to make the HiLux a better drive, especially on road. So let's find out if they've achieved the objective. Driving the Toyota HiLux on-road has always been a bit of a top-heavy experience, and the ride's pretty agricultural too. It's fair to say some other utes, especially the Ford Ranger, have become better drives. The wider tracks and the rear stabiliser bar are absolutely critical to enhancing the Rogue's on-road ability. Look, it's still a HiLux, but one that now feels planted, stable and, dare I say it, enjoyable to drive. It's most noticeable in corners. The roll is reduced, the steering's more connected, the Rogue is more planted, and then when you hit some bumps, you notice it wants to stay better attached to the road. Obviously that's an improvement for ride as well. The Rogue also rides that bit more comfortably. The improvement is not as dramatic as the Dynamics, but it is better. Head off-road, and with its excellent traction, the Rogue lives up to the HiLux's traditional capabilities. It's also got more ground clearance, and that doesn't hurt. On the flip side, now that it's more than 2 meters wide, I reckon that's about as wide as you want to get when you're negotiating tight bush tracks like these. Through all this, the drivetrain just keeps on keeping on. The noisy engine will never win any awards for effortless performance, but it fights on, aided by an automatic that makes it obvious that it's providing assistance. Let's talk some numbers. The Toyota HiLux Rogue comes with a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, service interval spaced at only 6 months or 10,000 kilometres, and a cap price service plan that comes out a bit over $1,560 over the first 3 years. You might be getting to this point thinking what Toyota has done here is not that important, but the opposite is true. While so much of the focus in the automotive world is now on the latest digital upgrade, the nuts and bolts still count, because in the end it's how you and I interact with those bits from behind the wheel that ultimately determines how safe we are on and off-road. These changes improve the Toyota HiLux Rogue significantly because they make it easier, more enjoyable and ultimately safer to drive. This is one HiLux worth buying.